Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and on this show, ambitious women learn how to create a life they're obsessed with, without the hustle, without the grind, without torturing ourselves, and without following anybody else's rules. This podcast is all about creating our own rules, owning our identity as creator, and hitting every single goal we set for ourselves. Together, we're redefining success on our terms and building lives that look as good as they feel. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the show and the second part of our six-part series called The Energetics of Winning. And I'm really excited about this conversation. If you are just now hopping in, I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen from the beginning. So this is the second of a six-part series. The first one was called The Energy Game. And I really talk about the energetics of a business and how the game that we're playing, because what I believe to be true and what I am demonstrating to you in this kind of training series, teaching series, if you will, is the energetics of winning, because most of us have been taught how to win. And you're here because you're a winner and you're a person who likes to win and you've won most of your life. But for some reason right now, something doesn't feel aligned. And so I'm actually walking you through why it no longer feels aligned. So these are going to stack up on top of one another and it makes a lot more sense if you start from the beginning. But if you're here, let's hang out and let's talk about the fact that the rules are made up. The rules are made up. This is one of the mind-bendiest things about business that I have learned in studying energetics, which is that the rules are made up. Everything that you have learned about business is merely somebody else's experience, right? I actually just saw it this morning, which was kind of what prompted this particular episode, was this woman who was like, you can think it's this or you can think it's that, but if you go back and look, these are the tried and true and tested ways of business. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things in our world that are tried and true that aren't good or completely made up, right? I mean, it's tried and true that women weren't allowed to vote or have bank accounts or buy houses or start businesses. That doesn't mean just because it happened for a bajillion years doesn't make it right? So sometimes there's this idea of well, we've been doing it this way for so long, so clearly it must be right. And some of that is true, right? There are some of the things that we learn about business that can feel true or can feel helpful. And this isn't necessarily meant to throw shade at what you are currently doing, but really for you to understand that all of the rules that you're following, the shoulds and the have tos, and it has to look this way, and I have to do it this way, and if I don't do it this way, and if I don't do it the way that everybody else in my industry is doing it, then I am not going to be successful. And I really want to myth bust the fuck out of that for you, because the only reason why you continue to see people doing things the same way that you do things is because that's what you're an energetic match for. I'm going to say that for you again. The reason why you see so many people doing things the way that you think you should be doing things is because that is what you are an energetic match for. Remember, you are a spiritual or energetic being in a physical body. What you put out, you get back. So if you are constantly looking for people who do business a specific way, you are going to find those people because that's the energy that you're putting out. So if you're continually seeing people build businesses in struggle and hard work, and suffering and sacrifice, and you got to cold call, or you got to email, or you got to show up on social media, or you've got to do it this way, this way, this way, this way. The reason why you continue to see that is because that is what you are an energetic match for. And when you learn how to play this energy game, the energy of winning, right? The energy of business, of money, of love, when you learn to play that game, you start to see something entirely different. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories about that. So when I came into entrepreneurship was back in 2019, and I, joined a program called The Unstoppable Entrepreneur. And I learned a process called the live launch method. And the live launch method was this idea where you launch your program live, right? You run these 9-day live workshops and you interact live with your people on Facebook and on Zoom, and then you pitch them your program. And there was a very, systemic way of doing things, right? It was a 48-page long fucking document. I'm exaggerating, right? But there's a very clear, how to, this is how to do it. And so everywhere I looked, people were live launching. So I'm like, oh, clearly live launching must work. So then I studied live launching and I started live launching, and I was very successful live launching. I made my first $1 million live launching, right? And then 2022 happened. Maybe it was 21, doesn't really matter. All of a sudden people were like, live launching doesn't work anymore. Nobody likes this shit. This is bullshit. Ads are too expensive. Nobody wants to sit through your thing. Everybody knows it's just a gimmick, and live launching doesn't work anymore. And what do you know? Live launching stopped working, not just for me, but for everybody. I didn't know that this is what was happening at the time, right? I was not into energy work yet. But what I didn't know is that I was merely observing what I was thinking about. This isn't working anymore. This isn't working anymore. Why is this so hard? Why is this so difficult? I don't really like doing this. Does this really feel aligned anymore? I don't even know if those are the words I was using, but I was constantly worried that it wasn't going to work anymore. And sure as shit, I started seeing people, it wasn't working anymore. And so I tell you this story because this is literally what you're seeing. So you see everybody doing things in a certain way, whether or not you want to do things in that certain way, I don't necessarily know, but because that's what you're observing. and thinking about it and worrying about it and focusing about it and thinking about it and beating yourself up over it and telling yourself you're not doing it right. You just need to do it like so-and-so, well, you're just not as charismatic as so-and-so, or you're just not as this as so-and-so, or as smart, or you haven't been doing this as long, or you don't have this network, and blah, 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 blah. And you spend all of your time worried about how you can't do it that way. But everywhere you look, everybody's doing it that way. But it is merely because what you focus on expands. So when you focus on people killing it on social media, that's what you see. When you focus on people cold calling, that's what you see. When you focus on people throwing shade, that's what you see. You will always find what you are looking for. The problem is what you're looking for, you have a lot of resistance over. So you just keep creating that. And I share this with you because literally every single part of business is made up, right? Every single part of business is made up. And the way that we know that this is true, how I can say this with so much fucking conviction and confidence, is that in every single industry, you can look around and you can find people succeeding a bajillion different ways. So many different ways. The work that I do, I see people, succeeding so many different ways. I work with a lot of real estate agents, right? They see people succeeding so many different ways. I work with women in corporate careers, and, there's obviously lots of different ways to succeed in that environment, which means that there are an unlimited number of ways to succeed, which means the only reason people are following the rules is because they believe that those rules are going to work for them. And if you believe that they will work for them, they will work for you. Like, that's what's really beautiful about it. The challenge is now you would like to play by a new set of rules, but you have focused on those rules and seen those rules and obsessed over those rules so much that they feel true. A belief is merely a thought that you have thought so many times that it rings true, that it feels true. So the idea of, in order to be successful, I have to work hard feels true because you have thought it so many times. But we know that that's not actually true because there are plenty of people succeeding not working as hard as you, right? I did an entire podcast on this. I think it's the Guilt and Shame podcast. It's not part of this particular series, but it's a podcast that I did about this idea of there are so many people in the world that if it wasn't as hard for them as it was for us, we judge them, right? We live in this world where we all want power, but we judge the shit out of the people with power. How fucked up is that? Right? So we're like, well, I want it to be easy for me, but when it's easy for other people, I make excuses, right? Like, oh, they're just lucky and they're just that, and they were just born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they're just smarter than me or more charismatic than me or have better connections than me. And it's almost like we want to justify our difficulty and our suffering by judging people who are successful. So the first thing I want you to do in this particular series is to look around and ask yourself the question, what are the rules that I am following that I don't want to follow anymore? What are the rules that I am following that I don't want to follow anymore? So again, one of them for me at one point in time was live launching, right? I made all my money through live launching, and I decided I don't want to have to live launch in order to get clients. Like, I don't want to do that, right? So I had to build a new belief that I could sign clients in other ways, right? So I haven't live launched in years, right? Even in putting this series together, I said this in the first one, the energy game, is like, this is not somebody else's system. Like, I'm not following what somebody else is doing and just recording a series of podcasts, sharing with you my experience so that I can tell you about my new program. Like, I've not watched anybody else do this. This was just like, what would I love? What would be so much fun for me to serve my audience, to serve my listeners, and to communicate to people the work that I do and make a very simple, very casual ask. If this aligns with you, if you want to do business this way, we should talk about business therapy, right? But I'm not following somebody else's rules or systems. I'm literally just showing up as myself because the rules are made up. Because if I'd follow the rules, right? The rules is like, well, you got to get people registered. You got to build your email list. Like, oh my God, if you don't have an email list, we're all going to die, right? That's the first rule that I've decided I don't really care about. I don't really care. I would love to grow my email list. But do you know what? If you're watching this or listening to this on social media or somebody shared it with you or whatever, like, that's cool too. I also didn't make sure I had X number of people enrolled because it does us no good to do a conversion event if we don't have enough people enrolled. Like, fuck that, right? If one person watches this and decides that, hey, I want to change my life in business therapy, like, I want to have a completely different experience with business and with money and with love and with respect and with achievement, then I did it right? As far as I'm concerned. And so I'm just sharing this with you because there are so many rules that have governed my life for so long, especially about business, hard work, sacrifice, professionalism, what it looks like, how you have to price things, how you have to sell things, how you have to do operations, how big your team needs to be, what this needs to look like and that needs to look like. And there's all of these rules, and the rules are so fucking overwhelming, which is why we go through the world with so much overwhelm, because we're so busy trying to follow the rules, but the rules are fucking made up. If we decided to stop asking ourselves the question of what should I do and start asking the question, what would I love? What would be fun? What would excite me? What would make me happy? Our lives and our businesses would be so different. The problem is we're still stuck in a belief system that we have to stay within the rules, right? We still believe that the rules are important. And what I want you to learn and what I will walk you through in business therapy is the idea that the only rules that really matter are your rules. And if you don't like the rules that you're currently following, you can create new ones, which for me means no more traditional launches, right? Like, am I launching a program right now? You bet your ass I am, right? But I'm not doing this by following somebody else's blueprint. I'm doing it by a way that would be fun for me. What would be fun for you? What would be fun for you in your business if you knew without a shadow of a doubt of every goal that you have in your business or career is guaranteed to be done? How would you approach it? How would you approach it? What would you do? What would be fun? What would you love? Because those are the rules I want to follow. The ones that are fun, the one that I would love, the ones that set my soul on fire, the one that have me excited getting out of bed. I realized that I was doing it wrong when I was running my own business that I had started because I wanted freedom, but I didn't feel free. In fact, I felt so imprisoned by my business. It's fucking bananas to think about. Like, I was like, I should probably just go get a job because it would be less stressful and I'd probably make more money because I was spending every fucking dime that I had trying to keep the business alive because I was trying to follow the rules of what a successful business looked like. And then I realized a successful business for Ryan Gillen looks like a business that supports my life, not that supports somebody else's blueprint. To me, the most important thing in this season of life is living a life that I love. And I cannot live a life that I love doing shit that I hate in my business. Those two things are not aligned. I said this to you yesterday. If you're miserable while you're building it, you're not going to be happy at some point. You're not going to reach some point in your business where all of a sudden you're happy if you were miserable every single fucking step of the way. If you did things you hated every single step of the way. If you can just white knuckle it enough to get there, where the fuck is there? Because in my experience, there doesn't exist. Just like the rules don't either. The rules are completely made up. And it doesn't mean that they have no merit, right? Like, obviously, we should probably market our businesses in some way, shape, or form, right? Absolutely, positively. You should do some marketing if you have a business, right? If you are in a corporate career, you should probably like show up and do a good job at your job, right? So I'm not saying that this is about like sitting on our ass, eating bonbons, doing nothing, because I also know about the person listening to this is that you're a high achiever. You're a doer. Like, you don't want to do nothing. The idea of retirement to you blows your mind, right? And if you're like, actually, right, not working is kind of what I want to do, then I'm maybe not the girl for you because I don't want to sit around and do nothing. My kids are fucking 5 and 8. You know, I'm 41 years old, turning 42 this year. I'm not ready to retire. I'm not ready to not work. There's too many things I want to do. I love this work. I love what I do. And I believe most of you feel that exact same way. Because I think that's what happens with this work. People are like, oh, you're promising it'll be easy and that I don't have to work very hard. And like, you know, we're just supposed to sit around and do nothing and money is just supposed to show up. Like, maybe if that's your belief system, maybe, but maybe not, because maybe that's not what you want, right? For me, that's not what I want. I mean, yes, of course, I want money to just show up all the time, but I don't want to not work. I don't want to not speak. I don't want to not engage with clients. I don't want to not create content. Like, these are all things I want to do. I don't do anything I don't want to do. And what do you know? I make probably around the same amount of money that I was making before. The difference is now I don't have a big team, so I actually get to keep that money, which is very exciting. And also, I look at my calendar every day and I'm like, fuck yeah, look how much fun today is. Like, I'm recording this before a day of calls. I have 3 calls today. I have one that's like a networking catch up. I have 1 sales conversation. I have a podcast interview. Oh, and then I have another coffee chat. So there's 4 things on my calendar today. And I am launching this brand new program that is the most magnificent thing, this most magnificent masterpiece that I have ever created in my entire life. Like, my soul is on fire for this. I don't want to not do this work. And I share this with you because I think that's you too. I think that you want to do the work that you're doing. You just don't want to do it the way that you're doing it anymore. And so what I wanted to communicate with you in this particular teaching is the idea that whatever the rules are, like, what are the rules that you're following and why are you following them? Why are you following them? And you're going to find it's because somebody told you. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to say, well, yeah, but that person knows more than you, or they've achieved what you want to achieve. So you should probably do what that person does. But like, do you know that person? Is that person happy? Do they like their life? Are they doing business that they enjoy? Are they living a life like the life you want to live? You know, are they actually doing the things that you're teaching? I learned that the hard way, right? That was literally why my business partnership, if you've heard that whole story, my business partnership went to shit because I learned that my business partner was lying about the life she was living and the business that she was running. She talked about this like freedom, life focused business, and she was working 80 hours a week, fucking existing on Doritos and Diet Coke. Like, so yeah, she was telling people it was so easy to just do business this way, but it wasn't actually that way for her. So she had all these rules about what you could and couldn't do in business, but she wasn't following those rules. And I only share this with you, not necessarily to throw shade at her, but so like you think about like, we follow these systems and processes and it's like, but why? And one of my favorite ones to think about is like the 40-hour work week. The 40-hour work week, I believe, was created in the 1920s by Henry Ford to support factories, to support the manufacturing of vehicles. That's why we work a 40-hour work week. Tell me that's not the most fucked up rule ever, because back in whenever we needed the factory to run 24 hours a day, right? So 3 8s, 8 to 4, 4 to 12, 12 to 8, right? That's what we learned, but everybody could work 40 hours, right? So you find everybody to work their 40 hours, whatever shift that it is. And we still follow those rules 100 years later with completely different technology and work. So tell me again that the rules aren't made up. The education system was built by the Rockefellers to create workers, right? To train us to be good little sheep. That's why. We were told we would get better jobs if we got degrees. How many of you have degrees that did not further your career? How many of you have degrees that you're not working in your business in any capacity or in your career, right? How many of you are still paying off those degrees? These are rules. These are rules that we have been taught are the keys to success. And the way that we know that they're all made up is because there's people existing outside of those rules. There's people who make a fuck ton of money not working a 40-hour work week. There are people that are wildly successful without degrees. I think Steve Jobs was one of them, right? There are people that don't follow those rules that are being successful. And I know that I'm hammering this home, but I think it's so important because what I didn't realize when it came to the energetics of winning was that I had put all my power in the rules. But that's not where the power is. You're the power. I'm the power. Your energy is the power, which is why it doesn't matter what rules you follow when you believe in the rules and you align with the rules and you show up in alignment with the highest version of you. It doesn't matter what rules you follow. You can follow different rules every motherfucking day. One of my favorite stories to tell is that of my mentor, Stacy, whom I love and adore. Stacy built $1 million business in 10 months with zero social media presence, really any marketing, just through her own network. She signed a client, a $60,000 client from somebody she met hiking. She sold a 7-figure property for somebody she met in line at Starbucks. There are no rules. There are no rules. There's no rule book for how to fucking find clients in line at Starbucks. There's no rule books for how to meet people hiking. The rules are made up. The rules that you are following in business are made up. Because the rules don't matter. It's not the strategy. It's not the process. It's the energy. It is the energy. It is the belief. It is who you are being as you execute on that strategy and on those rules that is actually driving. But the problem is that for a little while, the rules were fun. Like you had fun in the beginning of your business and the beginning of your career, but now you're realizing that like, hey, I don't really want to do this forever. This isn't really the way that I want my life to look. I mean, I achieved a lot of the things that I set out to achieve, but I'm not actually happy or fulfilled. I sure as fuck don't want to do this until I'm in my 60s, maybe older, right? So if you were looking for confirmation, the rules are in fact made up because it's not the rules. It's not the strategy. It's your energy that drives. It is who you are being. It's how you see yourself. It's what you believe about the world, what you believe about money, what you believe about success that is actually driving whether or not you win because the rules are made up. See you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncensored Self Podcast. If you're walking away with a new perspective, some fresh inspiration, or the push you needed to show up as your uncensored self, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode, leave a review, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, success isn't about following somebody else's rules. It's about owning who you are, deciding what you want, and going after it unapologetically. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and stay uncensored.